Phil Steele is now on YouTube, and I'll be here every Wednesday and Friday. Friday with the Phil Steele Plus Tour, Wednesday with a bonus feature, and today we're going to go over finding value in the YPG and give you my overall NFL teams most improved and least improved for the 2019 season. Before I get to it, I do want to remind you, keep this stuff free every week. All you have to do when you go to YouTube is make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell so we'll notify you when the next one is up. And then, of course, give us your comments down below. And when you give us your comments down below, we'll try to get whatever you want to see here on the YouTube channel of Phil Steele. Well, last week, a big winning week for the Phil Steele Plus Tour. 4-1-2. I'll be back on Friday for another one. And, of course, the Fresno game, you were +3. There were some +3.5s out there. We'll still count that one as a tie last week, even though some of you won the Fresno game. So 4 wins. The winners were the Minnesota Vikings over Atlanta, a crushing win. The Colorado State over Western Illinois, a 38-13 win. The Baltimore Ravens crushing Miami, and Oregon beating Nevada 77-6. So the 4 wins were all blowouts. The 1 loss was on Rutgers, and the 2 pushes last week, 1 was on Ball State and 1 was on Fresno. And as mentioned, you could easily have won the Fresno game last week. So I'll have that up for you on Friday. But let's talk NFL today. And it was a nice start for the Phil Steele Plus Tour, as you saw there with the NFL selections. And a big reason for that is these value plays. And today we're going to go to finding value in the YPG. But then stick around after that. So I'm going to give you the overall improved teams in the NFL and the weaker teams. Let's look at the finding value in the YPG. Now, last year in the magazine, let's take a look at the magazine page from last year. It was page 21. As you could tell, there were 3 teams in the going up box and 3 teams in the going down box. And in the going down box was Buffalo, which actually statistically was minus 52 yards per game, but had a winning record. Well, you think they're going to have a weaker record? They went from 9-7 to 6-10. The New England Patriots had been 13-3. But in reality, they were only like a 9-7 team or a 9-6 team the year before. They figured to have a weaker record, and they did. They dropped to 11-5 last year. And the Carolina Panthers were 11-5, but basically a 500 team statistically. You figured that Carolina was ready for a weaker record, and they were. They dropped to 7-9. In the going up box last year, the Cleveland Browns had been 0-16, but they were more like a 7-9 team statistically, only being outgained by 19.3 yards per game. You had a figure improvement. Guess what? They jumped all the way up to 7-8. The Denver Broncos were plus 34 yards per game, but only 5-11. So you've had to figure they would have a better record. They went from 5-11 to 6-10. And then how about Houston last year? Was only minus 26 yards per game, but 4-12. So they were more like a 7-9 team. They were in the going up box. They went from 4-12 all the way up to 11-5 and the playoffs last year. So the going up, going down box, a perfect 6-0 last year for the finding value in the YPG. And this year there were 7 teams. So which teams are going down this year? How about the Miami Dolphins? They were 7-9 last year, but they were minus 101 yards per game, which was more like being a 3-13 team. That says they're going down. The New Orleans Saints were 13-3 last year, but statistically they were more like a 9-6 team as they were only plus 30 yards per game. This is saying they will have a weaker record than 13-3 this year. The Cincinnati Bengals were 6-10, but much like Miami, they were statistically more like a 3-13 team. So even though they were just 6-10 last year, the finding value in the YPG says their record goes down. And the Kansas City Chiefs last year were 12-4, but they actually only outgained their opponents by 20 yards per game. That's like being a 9-7 team. So even though the Chiefs were super impressive and look super impressive again this year, the finding value in the YPG says they're not going to win 12 games this year. Who's in the going up box? Well, we'll start with the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco was plus 14.4 yards per game last year, but only finished 4-12. That means they were more like a 9-7 team last year. There's a lot of value on San Francisco there in the going up box. Same thing with Tampa Bay. Ironically, those 2 teams played in week 1 this year, and San Francisco won that game on the road, but that doesn't mean Tampa Bay's not going to improve. Tampa Bay last year was plus 32 yards per game, but actually finished with a 5-11 record. That's more like a 9-6-1 team last year. Despite last week's loss, look for Tampa Bay to improve their record this year. And finally, Jacksonville, the Jaguars last year were plus 15 yards per game. Once again, more like a 9-7 team. They only finished 5-11. It's going to be tough to improve much with the loss of their quarterback, which happened in week 1. And not every team in the finding value box will win like it did last year. As you can tell, it's something that's had about a 75% win record. So you're going to lose one every once in a while, but it still forecasts Jacksonville with that strong defense to improve the record. We'll see if they can find themselves a quarterback this year and actually live up to that. So the going down box is Miami, New Orleans, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. The going up box, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville. Now, what I did is I do this every year. I take all the factors. The turnovers equals turnaround. Close wins, close losses. By the way, we had a complete YouTube video on that one, so go ahead and check that out. The close wins, close losses one. The finding value in the YPG, which was 6-0 last year. The YPP factor, which was on page 25 of the magazine last year, that went 5-2. The teams that were supposed to go up and the teams that were supposed to go down, 5 of them did what they were supposed to do. 2 of them did not. And then, of course, slipping and sliding. That was on page 24 of the magazine last year. There was actually 16 teams in that article. It's sort of like the stock market indicator. Well, 11 of the teams did exactly what they should have done. Gone up in the going up box or gone down in the going down box. 4 of the teams went against it, and 1 was the same exact record. But 11-4-1 is not too bad of a success. So what I did is I've compiled the points from those categories plus the starts lost to injury from last year. So 6 different categories and added them all together. And what we've come up with is the most improved teams this year and the teams who are most likely to see a weaker record based on all 6 of these factors, like the finding value in the YPG from today. Who's at the top? The San Francisco 49ers are number 1 on the total improved. Look at that. 1,298 total points. They fit almost every single category, and they got off to a good start. They've already got 1 win, a great shot at improving on that 4-12 record. The number 2 team, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was 5-11 last year, and even though they lost their opener, it was to San Francisco, the other most improved team. Look for them to improve. Jacksonville lost their quarterback last week. That hurts. Buffalo Bills. The Bills are supposed to improve on their 6-10 record based on these factors, and they got off to a nice win on the road over the New York Jets last week. You know, not a lot of folks are expecting much out of the Oakland Raiders this year, but the most improved list is saying they should improve on last year's 4-12 record. Arizona, a team that won just 3 games last year, make the most improved list. And the Carolina Panthers. Yes, they lost to the Rams in the opener, but the most improved factors are still high on Carolina this year, as well as the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers look poor against New England week 1, but this says they will improve on their 9-win total. Now let's focus in on the bottom of this chart. And at the bottom of the chart, the Chicago Bears off at 12-4, a trendy Super Bowl pick. They did lose their opening game to Green Bay, and they were number 32 as the least improved team or the team most likely to have a weaker record this year. Houston looked great against New Orleans on Monday night, but did chalk up a loss. This most improved factor says they are the second most likely team to have a weaker record this year and drop from their 11-5-1 record of last year. The Miami Dolphins were 7-9 last year. This chart says, nope, not going to happen this year. And boy, did they look poor in the opening game against Baltimore, didn't they? This has them the 3rd team with highest chance of having a weaker record this year. How about the Indianapolis Colts? The chart factors already said they were headed for a weaker record than 10-6. Losing Andrew Luck is going to hurt as well. The Indianapolis Colts come in at number 29. Now, New Orleans beat the team Houston down there, who is also in this chart. But this chart says they're not going to reach 13-3 this year. The Seattle Seahawks, 10-6 last year. This chart says they have the 6th best chance of having a weaker record in this season. So there is a glance. Let you focus in on the overall total improved chart for this year. There's the teams at the top, which are most likely to improve. The teams at the bottom are most likely to have a weaker record. And generally what happens is the teams at the top have pretty good spread records. The teams at the bottom struggle against the spread, especially early in the season. So we'll keep an eye on how that does this year. It was a nice 2-0 for the NFL selections in the Phil Steele Plus. So if you like NFL, I do want to remind you, we have a lot of NFL on Phil Steele Plus. You want to check that out. And once again, I'll keep bringing you these free YouTube videos each and every week with handicapping tips, tips about the upcoming teams, and general football stuff, which you'll enjoy. Keep it free. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, the like button, and tell me what you'd like to see on next Wednesdays. We've run out of NFL preseason info. Tell me what you'd like to see. Go ahead and leave your comments down below. And thank you for watching this YouTube video. Hey everyone, this is Phil Steele. If you're a hardcore football fan, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and of course, hit the bell. And comment below your favorite football moment of the week and let us know what you'd like to see here on my YouTube channel.